Thinking about moving out of Washington, D.C.?
Stay tuned and we'll give you 5 reasons you're going to love Roanoke. Hey everybody, I'm Hal Cohn.
And I'm Chris Cohn with Cohn Realty Group.
If you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification icon so that you're notified each and every time that we release a new video about living, working, and playing in the amazing Roanoke Valley.
That's right. It is so incredible. We get folks constantly contacting us saying they want to move to or within Roanoke, Salem, and Botetourt. If that's you, your friends, or your family, we would love to connect with you, answer your questions you have, and just have a conversation. So give us a call, shoot us an email, or send us a text. We'll be happy to get right back to you.
All right, so it's the beginning of 2021. Yay. Those resolutions are in place. And one of the things that may be a resolution for you is that you're going to move out of Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. We just read a stat that there's over 32 million people thinking about relocating or moving in the year 2021.
Wow.
So if that's you and Washington, D.C. has you singing the blues, make sure you check out Roanoke, Virginia, and especially our other YouTube videos so you can find out all about how great the valley is.
Yeah, Roanoke really should be at the top of your list. We encourage you to check it out, look at our other videos, and do some research on your own. I think you'll find that's a pretty great place to live. So I love visiting Washington, D.C. There's so much to see, so much to do, and it feels, there's so much energy there. So It's really cool to visit. I enjoy that very much. You can get there in about 4.5 hour train ride here from Amtrak in Roanoke, but it's always nice to come home sweet home to Roanoke.
Yeah.
And as we were digging through it, we keep finding these 5 chief complaints that people have about Washington, D.C. And we want to tell you about Roanoke and how we're different. So what's the first one?
So the first reason you're going to love Roanoke over Washington, D.C. is you're not going to have to deal with that terrible traffic that you do on a daily basis in the D.C. area. So can I get an amen from you? If you sit in traffic all the time, you're like, this really stinks. So, and we have a prime example of that. There was a year or so ago, we were heading up to Washington, D.C. area to get through there to go to Baltimore so we could fly out to Barbados, of all places, for an amazing trip whenever we were still traveling, right, before coronavirus. And we're like, oh, we've got plenty of time, doodling down the road. And then guess what? We hit the Beltway in D.C. And what do you think happened?
It was a mess.
You got it, yep. We were stopped for at least 45 minutes just to go 4 miles. We were 2 or 3 exits from where we needed to get off, and it was like, holy crap, we're gonna miss our flight.
Yeah.
But praise the Lord, we did not. So anyway, traffic. So traffic in Roanoke, what can you tell about traffic in Roanoke?
There are some times where we have heavy to moderate traffic. It all depends on what you're used to. If you're used to a place that doesn't have much traffic, this might seem a little congested. But if you're used to a place like Atlanta, or even we came from Asheville, this is not a heavily congested area by any means. Of course, there are certain times that are more popular than others, and then certain main thoroughfares that can get pretty congested. But again, it's kind of the time of day.
Yeah, it's based on your time of day, and then even so, it's still not going to take you more than 20 to 30 minutes to get from one side of town to the other,
right.
Whether you're going north, south, east, or west. So, you're not going to deal with the traffic jams and the craziness of getting up at 4 a.m. to miss rush hour so you can make it into the office and those types of things. So traffic is going to be your friend here in Roanoke compared to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and let's not forget parking too. That's one part of traffic that you have to think about. But I know I know parking in DC can be pretty tricky, and here it's not really concerned. So I know every time I go downtown or any of the other areas, plenty of parking. I don't mind walking a block or 2 if I need to. So parking really isn't an issue at all, and public transportation I know can be a headache in DC as well.
All right, so the second reason you're going to love Roanoke over Washington, D.C. is the fact that we have amazing, you like that word amazing, don't you? Amazing schools, public schools that is, here in the Roanoke Valley. And so people are spending a ton of money sending their kids to private schools throughout Washington, D.C. because the public schools just aren't up to the standard that you guys are looking for.
That's right. That's a really important factor as families want to consider a place to move. And check out Roanoke, Salem, Botetourt school scores. They're pretty amazing. Across the board, Roanoke Valley schools rank pretty highly, and you can check that out on your own going to niche.com, or if you'd like to say niche.
You can do that too. Yeah.
Also, there's another website called schooldigger.com, and it will give you all the stats, the ratings, and commentary that you need to inform yourself about what school is best for your family. And while we're on the subject of schools, I mean, from what we've seen working with our clients that have relocated here into the area, you know, they kind of hone in on one certain community.
Yeah, here in the Roanoke Valley.
Right.
By looking at all of our videos, which helps them do that.
And then sometimes they have to expand their search, or they want to check out other areas, and they get a little concerned about the schools. Like, well, I know this area and this school district looks really good. But as they research the other areas, they take comfort in knowing that they're ranked pretty high too, and it gives them that flexibility to really choose wherever they want to live in the valley. So that's awesome too. You're not pigeonholed into one area in particular, but you have freedom to look throughout the whole valley.
That's right. Whether you want to live in the city, the county, the far outreaches of the some of the rural areas around here, you're not going to have a problem checking out those schools and making sure they're going to meet your needs. All right, so we're on number 3. The third reason you're gonna love Roanoke is because you're gonna have less stress. Because most of you, a lot of you that live in the Washington, D.C. area, you're highly educated, and man, are you motivated. So you're driven, and you are like, hey, I am gonna do an amazing job at everything that I do.
And good for you. You can do it. Feels like a little motivational talk.
But it's stressful.
It is stressful. Typically, people that work in Washington, D.C. have longer work hours. I'm sure you can probably relate. And that can really compromise some of your social life, your relationships, even your physical health. I mean, if you're in traffic and you have long work hours, how are you going to make it to the gym? How are you going to see your family and create those bonds and have really deep relationship with your friends and neighbors and get that sense of community? That was our trouble in Atlanta.
Yeah, we can definitely relate to that from our time in Atlanta, because we were sitting in traffic for long periods of time, up early in the morning, getting home late at night. So trying to squeeze in the time to make it to the gym so we could take care of ourselves physically, and then we wanted to actually hang out with our friends. It was not the easiest thing to do after work.
That's right. Especially throwing kids in the mix now. I don't know. I don't know how you're running kids all around, but kudos to you. Here in Roanoke, it's a little different pace. I mean, things are a little bit, I don't want to say slower, but just a little dialed back. I mean, you know, people take leisurely walks, and they have time to get out during their lunch hour and run a few errands or whatever. But
I see a lot of people on the sidewalks, like close to the hospital and other places, where they've got their shoes on and they're walking during their lunch hour, you know?
Great.
So they get out, they walk, and then they're back in the office. So they kind of combine the two.
Yeah, and I mean, not even work hours, it is stressful. You need a release. But really, if you just walk outside and look around you at the beautiful mountains, the clean air, I don't think you're going to get that in Washington, D.C. It is beautiful, the skyscrapers and things, but this is just a different quality of life, and it reduces that stress level. So that's a nice touch too.
Yes. All right, so before we dig into the number 4 reason you're going to love Roanoke, please make sure you stay to the very end so you can find out the number 1 reason you're going to love the Roanoke Valley.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. So let's jump into number 4. So number 4 reason that you're going to love the Roanoke Valley is going to be recreational opportunities right outside your back door.
Absolutely. This kind of dovetails with the last one, that higher quality of life and living and just taking in this beautiful, it really is such a scenic area surrounded by mountains. We're sitting in a valley. It's gorgeous. So you can, depending on where you live, you literally can walk outside your back door and hop on a trail or a greenway. That's present not only in the urban areas, but in some of the rural areas too.
Yeah, because inside the city, you've got the greenway. And then in some of the other rural areas, or even in the county, you may buy a piece of property that backs up to the Blue Ridge Parkway.
That's right.
To the Appalachian Trail. So, I mean, if that's the case, then guess what? You put your hiking boots on, you just run on out there, and you are good to go to be in nature.
I know. We lived in Roanoke County, in a subdivision, and right smack dab in between all these houses is a natural preserve called Reed Mountain. We were able to hike up there whenever we wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
It was wonderful. But you can find those little areas and opportunities for recreation. We're talking mainly today about the outdoor activities, but our county and city parks and recreation offices have fantastic opportunities, always have a huge thick magazine of activities and classes and trips that you can take, and it doesn't matter what age you are, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, and along those lines, let's talk about the fact that you don't have to plan these elaborate weekends and long vacations to be able to get some of these outdoor activities that people are flocking to the valley to do, like mountain biking, like fishing, like kayaking, hiking. Those things, like we said, they're right out your back door, or you could just plan an afternoon and you're there. And then if you want to plan a longer weekend and you want to check somewhere else out in the United States that's kind of similar, or you got a hankering to do something else, then guess what you can do? You can access it real easy because you're within 2/3 of the population of the United States when you live in Roanoke.
Yes, very centrally located. And we encourage you to check out our other videos, which talk about waterfall trails you should check out, hiking trails. There's also plenty of opportunity, like you said, for boating, stand-up paddleboarding. I really want to try that. And I like to say it, but there's kayaking, canoeing, fishing, boating, all that. Yeah. Hiking, we're right here at the Appalachian Trail. And then horseback riding, all kinds of stuff, hunting, you name it.
And don't forget about skiing and wakeboarding down at Smith Mountain Lake. So you're about 30 to 45 minutes to the lake. Yeah. Or you can buy a property on the lake. We have for that too. All right, so the final reason, but probably the most compelling reason you're going to want to move to the Roanoke Valley when you're leaving Washington, D.C. is because of the cost of living, and primarily the housing cost here is super cheap compared to Washington.
Absolutely, and we want to make sure you get as much money in your pocket as you can. So let's talk about cost of living. If you're looking at the overall cost of living index, Washington, D.C. is almost double in the cost of living index, and that is a score of about 152 for Washington, D.C. versus 84 for Roanoke.
Yeah, and the biggest factor normally in your cost of living index is going to be housing. So you know how expensive housing is in Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. So with that, what we found is that the average cost of a home in Washington, D.C. is around $600,000.
I can't even imagine what that would buy here.
And we're talking about our median price of a home here is $225,000 right now.
That's a huge difference. And that price is going to get you a pretty good home. I mean, we're talking about 3-bedroom, 2-bath, possibly a garage, probably a basement. We have lots of basements here, which is really nice. And a nice yard too. So this is not just like a small little home or a row house. This is a place to call your own.
Yeah, so like Chris said, you're going to get a whole lot of bang for your buck when it comes to your housing opportunities here in Roanoke. You're not going to buy some 1-bedroom, 1-bath loft. You're going to have a place that you can truly call your own that's going to be, like she said, you're going to have a garage, you're probably going to have a basement, you're going to have a lot of square footage so you can spread out, you can grow the family if that's a part of what you're planning on doing. The dogs can run around in their yard, all those types of things. So it's gonna provide you the opportunity to grow and to get a lot of, like I said, bang for your buck. So for those of you who have some of those high-paying jobs that we know are out there, especially in the DC area, one of the wonderful things about our area is the fact that a lot of people are working remotely for large corporations. So more than likely, you may have an opportunity to move down here, work for the same company, do it remotely, and not miss a beat because we've got great access to high-speed internet, and we've got fiber going up all over the place right now. So you'll be able to, if you need the high bandwidth and that type of thing to get your job done, you'll be able to find it here, and we'll be able to help you do that.
And that's a wrap.
Another one in the books just for you.
And we hope you've enjoyed learning about Roanoke and comparing it a little bit to Washington, D.C. And hopefully you found that Roanoke is a great place to consider.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you are the least bit interested in the Roanoke Valley, number 1, make sure you connect with us directly. Number 2, make sure you sign up for our email newsletter. The link will be below in the description so that you'll get information via email twice a month when we send out our newsletter. So make sure you subscribe to that as well. And
we'll see you next time.
bye.
Bye.